preview event, and here we're going to discuss the Walker style combines. And our goal here is optimization for achieving higher harvest productivity while striving to increase your bottom line. I don't know how well you can read that, but that's what it says. We're going to increase productivity. Can you combine more acres per hour? Can you combine with less fuel consumption? Can you get a cleaner grain sample? The object is to put more bushels in the bin with less grain loss. That's our goal here today. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Virgil Andreessen. I'm the service manager at the Woodbine location. We have Roger Dow here from the Avoca location. He's a field marketer. And we have Brett Haubrick from the Manning location. He's a service tech at Manning. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to entertain your questions and get you some answers. Thanks for coming today. On behalf of everyone at Horizon Equipment, we'd like to welcome you to our fall preview and harvest equipment optimization program. Our program here today is for machine optimization. We're not here to do an inspection on your combine or tell you how to do an inspection and repair. We've done that for many years in the past. We want to help you today get better performance out of the machine that you already own. So, what's important to you? Less crop loss in the field, higher productivity from your current equipment, more efficient use of time, equipment, and resources. What is important to you? This is where you're supposed to tell me what's important to you, and I write it on the board. So, as far as optimization, what's one of the important items for optimization? James, you're studying awful hard. What's important?
Well, all of them, actually.
Okay. You got one in particular that you want us to make sure we get covered?
Well, probably the first one. Crop loss.
Crop loss. Anybody else?
Usually talking about older machines. What about the improvements or new products that might fit on this equipment?
Product improvements and updates. How about updates and enhancements? There are some 10 series updates that a guy can put on a 9000 series combine to, get some better enhancements for it. Anything else? Anybody got any other ideas? We ought to be able to cover those too. We're going to start with feeding the machine, feeding the beast. It always starts in the front of the machine. We want to make sure we have our header level with the combine. Especially a side hill machine, start out with the header level so when you get to a side hill and it starts to lean uphill, your head still runs level with the ground. That's the whole object of a side hill machine, is to let your front end equipment run with the ground while maintaining a level combine. Feeder house conveyor speed is a key thing. There's a lower sprocket on the right hand side. That's what regulates. There's two speeds to regulate a feeder house conveyor chain. We want to use the large sprocket when we do corn, use the small sprocket when we go to beans or small grain. Did anybody change those? Everybody use the same one year round? On a side hill you're going to, because there's only one sprocket. level end, what's that?
6620 though, you could change it.
6620 can. A 9500, 9510 side hill only has one sprocket. So you're not going to be able to change the conveyor chain speed. But on a conventional level end machine, there's two settings on that sprocket. Your combine will run more efficient. You'll have a better feeding in the soybeans and small grains if you use the small sprocket. Airflow feeder house on 10 series combines on a level end machine. They have a fan on there for the airflow feeder house. Use that fan when you're doing soybeans, small grains that create a lot of dust in the feeder house. Use the fan. When you go to corn, take the belt off. You don't need to use the fan when you're doing corn, because it will also suck the broken corn cobs and stuff into the fan and plug it up. So we don't use the airflow fan in corn. A reverser sheave gap. Belt tension. Why do we need to make sure there's a gap on the reverser?
Friction.
What's that?
If it's too tight, it'll cause friction on it.
Yes, it will. Friction causes heat, doesn't it? Also, if your sheaves run together, you're not going to get the proper belt speed. So the variable speed, now we've already talked about one speed setting for the feeder house. Now we're saying that the reverser sheave gap is going to be involved with another speed setting. What's the speed? What speed are we changing there?
Well, it depends on your on your corn. Your variable, you can change it.
Right.
And then when you go down the platform,
Yep.
then you want to go down slow
Yep,
the
that-
goals. It should be 490.
That reverser, that adjustable variable speed reverser, adjusts the back shaft speed. So it adjusts the speed at which you're running your head. Like James said, in corn, you'll use it for variable speed. When you go to beans, slow your reverser all the way down, because you're going to unhook that hose and plug it into your head for operating your reel lift. And make sure you slow your head all the way down before you disconnect it when you go to beans, because you don't want to run your bean platform too fast. It'll just shake it apart. And that's what the variable speed reverser does. 10 series updates. That's one of the things that we said was important. Updates and enhancements. There are the sundial adjustments for the chaffer, sieve, and pre-cleaner. Those are some good adjustments to put on a 9000 series combine. They are on the later 10 series combines, and they are on all of the 50 series straw walker combines. We got a message here. I must be poking too many buttons. Some of the other updates are for older combines. What are we looking at? The sundials.
We'll get into shaft spread and stuff like that later too.
Yeah, the chaff spreaders are, this one has a John Deere mounted chaff spreader. There are other companies that make chaff spreaders. Chaff spreaders, we'll cover that here in a little bit, the importance of it. But residue disposal. Also, there is on your feeder house drum height, there's a handle kit for that, where you just loosen the bolt, move the handle, instead of trying to get in there and have somebody pry the drum up and turn the little screw on the side of the machine. Basically takes two people. With that handle adjustment, one person can do it. The best one I like is there is a kit for a jump start cable to put the jump start cable down here on the side, where you don't have to try to string battery cables up through the engine compartment if you leave a light on overnight. You know how many people have flipped on the light to look on the inside of the separator and left it on overnight? You come back the next morning and you turn the key and nothing happens. if you have that jump start lug mounted on the side, you pull your pickup up beside it, you hook right there, you don't have to string cables up into the engine compartment, and you're going.
Newer series have the batteries down below.
Yes, they do. Yep, and they have jump start cables mounted right to the battery box where they're at. So it's, you know, we're all guilty of doing that. That's why I like it, because they make it for everybody. Drum height setting, we talked about this handle, adjusting handle to change the settings. This is a real good update to put on the older combine to adjust the drum height. Now, drum height setting, is that important? Do we need to change that from one crop to another? And why do we need to change it? You know, material feeds in bunches with drum too high. So we're talking about combining beans, and our head is working good, and it's bringing the bean material into the center of the head, and then it just sits there until you get to a wad or a bunch, and then it goes into the machine because the conveyor chain is not low enough to catch it as a smooth crop mat, so it's feeding in bunches. And everybody's heard the cylinder when we start bunch feeding. It groans and growls, and then it runs smooth, and then it groans and growls again. It's important to lower that drum when you go to beans. The best thing you can do to feed the cylinder is to create an even flow crop material. And that starts right from the very beginning. Back feeding the cylinder not taking material, it's bunch feeding again. So if you are bunch feeding in soybeans and you get that big bunch of material going up the feeder house, it's usually all going to be right in the center, and that cylinder can only take so much at a time. If it doesn't take that whole bunch, what happens to it? It wraps right around and comes right back down the feeder house over the top. That's back feeding, and we want to avoid that. The conveyor chain. If your conveyor chain's too tight, it won't move material. Your conveyor chain's too tight, it's staying up off the floor of the combine, of the feeder house. And then what happens when you get it up off the feeder house, you don't have it dragging material up through. If you have any threshing going on in the feeder house, we've all had beans where they're dry, and as soon as something hits them, they start popping out of the pods. They roll right back down the bottom of the feeder house because there's nothing to catch them. So it's just, you know, making your combine optimized for best performance. If the conveyor chain's too loose, what happens? You start getting material back feeding because it wraps around the slats, and then it keeps going and going and going until it breaks. So conveyor chain, pretty important part. Transition from the feeder house to the cylinder. Best thing you can do to feed the cylinder is feed it through the feeder house properly. There's very little transition between the top shaft of the feeder house and the cylinder. So we don't have room in there to correct any feeding issues. We want to feed through the cylinder first and get an even crop flow into the cylinder. Any questions on the feeder house? Feeding the beast? Well, with this transition, I'm going to pass this off to Roger, and he will talk to us about the threshing portion.
Which one do we click?
This one over here.
That one over here?
Yep.
Oh. Keep my eyes on. Morning, I'm Roger Dow. I'm with the Voca store here. I'm a field marketer. I've been at this location now for 26 years, so well, hopefully I can get through this and not screw up too much. We're going to start with the threshing cylinder. First thing I think we really need to do when we get to the threshing cylinder is have somebody take a good look at parts in the threshing cylinder before we start making adjustments for, if we got worn concave, worn cylinder, a cylinder, a concave that's out of alignment, it isn't level with the cylinder, we could be chasing our tail, trying to make adjustments where we're just never going to get it right because our parts are worn, or our concave is not level. So that's a good place to start. Just go in there, take a look, pull your concave all the way up to your rasp bars. There's little inspection doors on either side. You can stick some kind of a measuring, whatever you can get in. An Allen wrench works really well to stick in there and just measure, make sure it's pretty close. So when you start to, make adjustments, you're not, because one side's at 3/16 of an inch and the other one's at 7/16. You'll never get the combine to thresh right. It'll chew grain up on one side to get it off the cob and be leaving it on the other side. So first thing we need to do is just make sure of our wear on our parts. The next thing we need to do on our cylinder we want to look at is what should we use, black or chrome rasp bars? Arguments either way. For gentlemen that have seed beans, I guess they recommend to use the black bars. They smooth up quicker, they're less aggressive to the crop, you have less splits, less damage to a crop with the black bars. So if you sell your beans for seed, that's a good idea to have the chrome rasp bars in, or the black rasp bars in there. The only thing different between those and the chromes of course are hardened. They're a good universal bar for your all crops. When you're selling to an elevator, a little damage, we can get away with that. We don't have worry about a dock on it. They last twice as long as a black bar, but as they wear, they get just a little bit of a sharp edge to them, which is just a little more aggressive when it's feeding through there. So the black bars, if you're really looking for a premium, when you take your beans to a seed place, I guess I would really say go toward black bars. The next deal we're going to look at is filler plates. What is the preference? Well, we've come out, they've been years now, they've had the perforated filler plates in these combines. They're a little smoother profile. They made it more of a round cylinder. You'll know you have perforated ones when you'll see holes in them, and what the holes were for is over the years you get some buildup of debris underneath the rasp bars, and as that stuff collected, it'll sit for a while and some of that will drop, and then if you go into a high-speed situation with your cylinder, you'll pick up a vibration under your feet, and that's from that debris sitting in there. And these perforated filler plates help drop that debris out of the cylinder when it's sat there, and at first startup it would throw that out there and then let the cylinder bounce back up. So if you notice a vibration under your feet, especially when you get your cylinder up, I would say high speed 800 or higher, and you notice there's some vibration there, it's a good thing to look at. Maybe we need to change some filler plates and get these perforated ones in there. The concave now is called a 13 bar concave. They took the bar out, open these areas up wider to get our higher yielding corns and stuff through, so we can get more performance through the combine. If you've had a 13 bar concave's probably been out for at least 10-15 years, so if you've replaced a concave recently, you probably have a 13 bar in there. Use of inserts on the concaves. Anything over 20% higher moisture corn, they would like you to use all the sets of inserts. The newer inserts are called a flush-faced insert. They're a little deeper. So used to be the old inserts would be underneath. You see these crossbars. The old inserts would sit underneath them about that far. The new ones will come out flush, so it kicks that last bit right out. It doesn't try to over thresh it. When it gets back that far, everything should be pretty much off the cob, and it's just trying to get it out of the cylinder. Both rows in there for high moisture corn. Dry corn, you can take one row out, and just depending on if you're getting a lot of excessive cobs, maybe on your You could even take the second route, but watch your chaffer. If you're getting a lot of cobs and such on the chaffer, I would put that first row back in to help kick that stuff up onto the walkers. You're opening it up just a little bit too much probably. Beans, I just leave one row in. Personally, that's my feelings on it. It helps keep some of that debris off the chaffer. If you've got a situation in beans, if you're getting a lot of material on the chaffer, you might be overloading the chaffer. Leaving that first row in will help kick that stuff up onto the walkers and get it out of the combine. So you're not putting so much material down on the chaffer. Pulling wires out or not, in our area, I'd highly recommend pulling every other wire out of a concave if you haven't already. What happens is material coming up the feeder house will go into the concave, and we've got some threshing already going on in the feeder house. As it grabs stuff and pulls it, there's some loose grain coming, and as that goes into the concave, if those other wire is pulled out, that grain goes right straight through. It doesn't want to get carried up into the concave, so it helps your flow of material right away. It gets rid of that loose grain, and then on high yielding corns, 200 bushels and more, it gets that, when that rasbar corn hits the first time, that corn goes down right on the shoe augers and gets out of there. It helps in speed. You can pick up some speed on your combine because you're not carrying so much material in the concave. You're getting it out in the cylinder. You're getting it out of there right away on the shoe augers. We looked at a scenario here where if you've got a 20-foot wide header and you're doing 4 miles an hour, you're getting about 8 acres an hour done. If you can pick up a half a mile an hour by getting the flow out of this combine the way you need it to, go a little faster, just a half a mile an hour on a 20-foot head, you'll do 9 acres an hour. 10-hour day gets you 10 more acres a day. I've got it, the 600 acres of beans. At 4 miles an hour, it's probably going to take you about 7.5 days of true combine to get through. If you just pick up a half a mile an hour, you'll drop a whole day off of your harvest just by gaining a half a mile an hour. And one way of doing that is to get every other wire out, be able to get some speed and get that material moving through the system, the threshing system. Beater assembly and beater grate. Beaters on John Deere combines have always been in the up position. The only thing you want to probably look at the beater assembly is just for bent fins. Once in a while you can run something through, just check and make sure you ain't got a bent fin. There's little bars underneath here on the beater grate. Take a look up in there, make sure all those beater grate bars are up in there. You don't have a hole there that's dropping some material down into your chaffer and maybe overloading your chaffer and affecting some performance that way. Beater grate curtain. Been out for years and years and years. The idea for the beater grate curtain was it's bolted below the beater grate here, hangs down, and that last 3-4 rows in your concave, that material, as it's getting threshed, is getting knocked down into the cleaning system and not getting up on the walkers. If you have some loss on the walkers earlier when that beater grate's not there, it's because it's throwing it out the very top of the concave and getting up on the walkers and trying to walk it out. A beater grate curtain's a good way of getting that material knocked down and onto the cleaning system. I guess good visual inspection is what I have with the door open right there. You can get up and you can look and see there's a beater grate curtain there. Check it every time to time. You'll see a rubber flap missing once in a while. Actually, sometimes hardware will come loose. And I've seen beater grate curtains out in the field that they're running through a chopper, and it's not a pretty thing. So keep an eye on them once in a while. Just check them, make sure they're tight. Grain samples in the tank. We're going to go look at about 4 scenarios here on grain samples and how we probably would try to take care of what we've got going on. Pods and cobs in the tank, broken cobs, and pods, in the tank. more likely for some over threshing that's going on. We need to take a look at that. Concave and cylinder adjustments to secure that, and making one adjustment at a time so you know where we're at. You make two adjustments, it might cure a problem, but you don't know what cured it. You may not care, but you know, if you do one adjustment at a time, that doesn't do it, you know, move to the next one. It's the simplest way of figuring out what the hell's going on. Boy, I wish I could see that. That's got sticks and cobs in it if you can't see it. So we got a scenario in our grain tank. The grain is actually good quality. There's not a bunch of busted up kernels. Kernels look nice, but we got cob pieces and some stock pieces in there. What we've got going here probably is two problems. If you're getting that much stock in your grain sample, you're pulling probably too much stalks in. You might want to think about widening your deck plates out. Get that material sucked down through the corn head and not running it through the combine. And that would help get rid of the sticks, or the stalk pieces. And the cob pieces is probably from just a little bit of over threshing, probably a little, maybe a speed or a concave clearance problem there. One adjustment at a time. You know, first start with some speed, slow your cylinder speed down, probably 30 to 50 RPMs at a time is a good, you know, place to start. Slow it down, see if that helps. If that doesn't seem to clean it up all the way, open up your concave one, the two. If you've got an electronic one there, that's measured in millimeters. So open that up. I guess I forgot when I first started, another good adjustment before we even get started combining is that zero your concave indicator out. Pull your concave all the way up to your cylinder. Zero your gauge. Then we know we're starting from a zero, so all our numbers are right in line with the clearance that we've got. Here we just got a sample, and it's just got busted kernels. The kernels, other kernels are good. The other ones are just, there's no cobs in this at all, but just busted kernels. What we got here is probably a speed problem with the cylinder. We're going just a little too fast and damaging some corn. Just probably slowing it down 30 to 50 RPMs is going to help that scenario. Since there's no cob pieces, I wouldn't say that clearance is a problem. You're not busting anything up. Here we've got some, looks like some pretty decent corn. A few cracked kernels, but God, we got fines, all kinds of fines in there. I think the scenario we got there is it's probably a speed problem with the cylinder again, but the fines are probably coming from re-threshing. You've probably got a high tailing situation going on. If you're running a lot of tailings, it seems like you've always got tailings. When it brings that grain back into the threshing cylinder and you re-thresh it again, that's where you're going to get your fines. It'll just keep grinding and it'll go back through the combine. It might come back up the tailings again. You're just grinding it over and over. Fines is a good place to look is if you shut down the combine, see what you got for tailings coming up there. If you got too much tailings, we need to take care of the tailings problem. Tailings problem can be taken care of with chaffer and sieve clearances. Open it up a little bit, maybe get some stuff down through. Maybe we're walking it back a little too far toward the tailings. If you open up your concave or chaffer and sieve a little bit, probably have to speed up the fan a little bit to keep some stuff suspended when you open up the fins a little bit. The last one we've got here is just small pieces of cob. Again, that's probably, got a heavy thumb today. It's just probably a speed or a clearance problem. The grain itself looks pretty good. So I would probably look maybe at the clearance, maybe just open it up just a little bit and see if you can't clean up the broken pieces of cob that you're getting in the tank. Power shutdown. I don't know how many of us ever went through a power shutdown. It's somewhat unnerving to us that shut stuff down when it's hot. It goes against all what you been never told, don't shut anything down hot. But if done correctly, a power shutdown is the best way to diagnose a problem that you have with a combine, and it won't hurt anything. To do a power shutdown, go in the field, get combine at your speed, get the combine full. On a 9500, 9510s, you can do this scenario where you shut the key off, combine shuts down, you shut your header switch off, shut off your separator switch. Combine stops, start the combine back up, let it cool down, set for a while, shut the combine back off, and then start opening things up and see where stuff's laying on your walkers, laying on your chaffers, going up your tailings. It's a real good diagnostic tool to do. Just, do it properly. We were talking about this yesterday. People that have some 9510s, you don't want to do this on a 60 series or 70 series combine, because when you shut off the power, the emergency brake comes on, and it'll set you on your nose against the windshield. So this scenario is really only for the 10 series, where you've got a foot brake, a foot emergency brake. If it's got electrically engaged emergency brake and you hit that switch, combine is going to stop very suddenly. So just remember this. This is for the older combines. Straw walker, of course, that to get to the straw walkers is up in the engine compartment. There's a little door up there you open up and can look down into and see what you've got for straw walker. What's up there? Mostly should be some shucks and whole cobs if you can. I mean, if there's some broken up cobs with corn on the cob, you definitely know you've got a clearance problem there, because you're busting the cobs up actually before they even get a chance to roll in the cylinder itself. So if you do see busted cobs with kernels still on them up on the walker area, that's definitely a clearance problem. You need to open something up. And if you see, a good way to know if you're throwing grain over the walkers, especially on one without a chaff spreader, but if you see corn out in standing corn, loose corn laying there, you know it's probably coming from the straw chopper, and it's actually throwing it out there. Good way of just visually seeing some losses. As far as walker risers, what you probably see right here, and walker curtains, the rule of thumb is, as you pull into a field and you start combining, as you go, as the rear end of the combine hits where you started combining, you should see material start to come out. It should just pretty much flow through the combine. And if you've got a big lag, you go in the combine and you've got a big long spot where there's nothing come through, you've got something slowed down way too much in there. So you need to either take risers out. There's some combines have 2 curtains in, you might want to take a curtain out. To see 10, 15 feet down, I wouldn't be just too concerned, but if it gets any longer than that, you're slowing material down in the combine way too much. So, and that would help in performance too, getting stuff in, get it out. Let's pick up some little speed, get more done. Oop. I guess that'd be fun all the time. We talked about the risers and the curtains here, straw walker productivity. Cleaning system. Hand it off now to Brett.
Alright guys, I'm Brett Haubrick. I'm going to service tech in Manning location. We're going to get started on the cleaning system. Our grain drops from the concave onto our shoe augers and then goes into the cleaning system. We want to increase our productivity by making proper adjustments. We can't stress that more or enough. We need to do one at a time. We got pretty much 4 segments to the cleaning system. We got the pre-cleaner. Has 3 adjustments. It's got closed, open, and partial open. For beans, you want it to be closed. For corn, you want it partially open, especially wet corn. Then we got our chaffer. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's this upper one right here. And then we have our sieve, and it's the lower one. And of course, we got our cleaning fan here. Cleaning system continued. What we want to watch for fan speed If it is too high, the fan can blow seed into the tailings return, and this can cause the grain to be excessively carried. Start with the highest speed recommended in your operator's manual and work down if required. If you have an operator's manual, use it. It helps a lot, save you a lot of time. Has a lot of good information in there for you. Then we got our pre-cleaner and high moisture corn. Make sure to close down like a. No, you don't want it to be closed. You want it to be partially open as much as possible, and this will help to eliminate small cob pieces and other small thrash generated from running at a tight concave for entering the grain. For our sieve adjustment, if it is too tight, it will cause excessive tailings returns, which increases seed damage. Set sieve to the widest recommended setting for the work required. And what we mean by the widest, we want you to open it all the way and then go down in small increments. On the 9000 series combines, we got the chaff extensions, and we want them to be close tighter than your chaffer to minimize the tailings return. Here's some combine settings. These are pretty much right out of the book. This is where they want you to start off with. For dry corn, we want for your cleaning fan speed usually around 1,000 RPM, wet corn 1,300, and for soybeans you want to be at about 1,000. And our pre-cleaner settings to start off with, dry and wet corn is both going to be set the same at 7/16, and soybeans will be closed. Don't want that grain falling down. Or being blown out the back, I should say. Here we got chaffer, dry and wet corn will be set the same again at 5/8, and soybeans at 9/16. For sieve, dry and wet corn, same again, 7/16, and our soybeans will be around 3/8. Here we got a side hill cleaning kit. This is another update you can do. This kit can be installed to help keep your grain across your chaffer to keep flowing evenly across your chaffer. This prevents, when you're in hilly areas, from the grain staying on one side of your machine, and that increases your risk of the grain going out the back of the machine. This will increase your productivity in hilly areas. It's a pretty good update. There ain't much to it. Just put a middle divider in here, and it's got flaps on the middle divider and on the edges there. Okay, clean grain handling. Our clean grain auger is this front auger here. Keep elevator chains and augers in good condition to keep the grain moving efficiently. The main thing with your augers, just make sure they aren't sharp. You don't want to damage that grain. You don't want it to be cracked. This will help improve your grain quality. Paddle condition. One thing I like to bring up is when it's sitting over in between harvest, make sure the mice haven't chewed little paths up through them. This will decrease your grain flow. You want to keep that grain moving efficiently. Also, it ain't just the augers on the machine. You want to check your grain cart augers if you have a grain cart with augers in it. Just make sure they aren't sharp, make sure they're in good condition. This all aids in good productivity. Worn or damaged augers or elevators will limit the amount of grain you can move, which can result in overloading the shoe and losses. This would have a direct impact on your ground speed. Like, which one of you were you talking about ground speed earlier? About moving half. Is that you? Like I said, you can get that speed up, you'll increase your productivity. The tailing system, we got our tailings auger back here. You don't want a lot of grain back there. Adjust to limit grain and returns. Start wide with adjustments. Unthrust grain in the tailings return. What you'd want to do here is increase your concave clearance and increase your cylinder RPM. Again, your conveyor chain and auger condition, make sure they're all up to beat, keep that productivity up. When running the machine with a misadjusted shoe with a lot of tailings, it would result in the grain being threshed 2 or 3 times, and this will cause grain damage. So We want to make sure we get the system fixed before that. That could be clear for your questions. Here's one. I don't know how many of you guys have used it. Harvest Track. Combine monitor checks grain loss by measuring a representative sample of losses over the cleaning chute and walkers. Provides a visual indication of separator loss. The monitor can also be used if you check plug straw walkers or closed sieves and chaffer. There's 4 sensors. There's 2 on the rear of the cleaning chute and 2 up on the outside walkers. And then you got your plug-in sensors, it's way up on top. Testing these Harvest Track sensors and making sure they work properly will help maintain the productivity which we want. If you want, later I can show you how to test these. It takes 2 people. I can also show you how to use it, because I don't know how many people actually use it. So. Then we got the straw chopper. Another update, you can get large veins, spread that chaff out to the width of your cut, up to 25-30 feet. Stationary knives, we want to keep them out for corn. You'll break all of them, and it'll consume a lot of horsepower. For beans, you can almost leave them only halfway in, just to consume some more horsepower, or use less horsepower. Sharp knives, we want to keep them in good condition for an efficient cut. Okay, and this is another big one. Chopper belt. Do any of you guys change that belt over and go from corn to beans? We have a lot of people come in and that belt's never moved over. Just make sure you do that when you're going from corn to beans. You want to put it on the high side for beans and the low side for corn. Here we got the chaff spreader, chaff distribution. It can be very crucial for improved field conditions. You want to get that spread out there so it can help keep that moisture in the ground. Like I was talking before, you can get the large veins. It's an update to get that spread out there. Here we got a deflector that you can put in there and you can adjust it so you can adjust the angle that it deflects into your veins. Here we got the operator station. This is all about stress, pretty much, to reduce that. Active seat, it'll save your back. One main thing is we want to keep the AC filters clean so we can have efficient cooling. And later on we'll hand you out some sheets for all that kind of stuff. Here we got lighting. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but we got standard here and HID over here. It's a night to day difference. In dusty conditions, you're going to love the HID lighting. Anywhere you'll love it.
For that lighting, they do have a display over here in the expo tent with the 2 sitting side by side, HID light and the LED light or the halogen light sitting side by side. So you get a side by side comparison of how bright they actually are.
Can you convert these over to it?
To the HID light? Yeah, you can put HID light.
No, just the ones themselves.
Changing the light. Yeah, you'll take the halogen assembly off, an HID assembly on, and it'll plug in right into the same arc.
You want to do nothing else.
You won't have to do nothing else. Nope. Because the HID lights actually use less amperage than a halogen light, because the HID light has its own self-contained power grid. And it lasts a lot longer.
Now need to be the same.
And then we got cab cams. I don't know if any of you guys got cab cams, but they can help you a lot. They can help you see behind you, see in the grain tank, and locate your grain cart. This also helps with safety, so you don't hit anything, keeps everyone else safe. These, you can also talk to Bart about these too. I don't know if they have any over there.
Yeah, they have a display of CAD cams over there, and I believe they are doing a special expo pricing for CAD cams during our presentations here.
You use it to monitor your spreader.
Yes, you can.
And you can put 3 on the combine.
You can have up to 3 cameras on one display in the cab.
Lens, when it gets dirt on there, soil.
It usually doesn't bother them much at all. Nope.
Have you sent that in to get rebuilt?
And on that note, you can get back over
I
there.
gotta talk to him.
Okay, to wrap this up, does anybody get any questions? We're getting about ready to start our header class here in a little bit, so if you do have questions you think of later on, look one of us up. We'll be happy to answer your question, find answers for you. We ask that you use extra caution and be safe during this harvest. Harvest is a dangerous time of the year with traffic on the road, grain carts on the road, wagons on the road, combines with big heads on the road, and machines in the field with, other machinery around you. I want to thank you today for coming, and not only do we thank you for coming today, but I also want to thank you for doing business with Horizon Equipment. We do have some handouts for some information on filters for the different machines and capacities for the different machines. And the second one is a belt guide for the 9000 and 9010 combines. So on behalf of everyone with Horizon Equipment, thanks for coming. And what's important to you, we covered some crop loss issues with adjusting our cleaning area, adjusting our combine to get the best and highest performance and efficiency from it. We covered a few updates with updates for the 10 series updates you can put on the older 9000 series combines. And then again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop by and we'll get you some answers.
You wanna get this?